Greetings, everyone, it's your new friend Indrasoph Mirror back again. No need for further ado, let's dive straight into today's topic. Lately, I've noticed a surge of interest in health and wellness, so today we'll be exploring a particularly popular approach to maintaining physical well-being, the 16-hour fast. Also known as the 8-hour diet, while it's often referred to as a DEET, its primary focus isn't solely weight loss. That's merely one of its beneficial side effects. The practice of fasting for health benefits is said to have gained traction over 2 decades ago. However, it's a concept that's constantly evolving and being refined. The emergence of these fasting approaches stemmed from a growing skepticism about modern dietary habits. Today, we're witnessing a surge in obesity rates, affecting both adults and children. This is particularly pronounced among adults, with a noticeable prevalence of abdominal obesity characterized by slim limbs and a disproportionately large belly. So, what's driving this trend? On one hand, it's attributable to a decline in physical activity. This encompasses both reduced physical labor and a decrease in regular exercise. On the other hand, some have begun to question the conventional wisdom of consuming 3 meals a day. In China, leading up to the end of the 20th century, economic realities dictated that most households limited their daily intake to 2 meals. For some, even a single meal was the norm. Those who came of age before the 1990s may have some recollection of this. The now common practice of consuming 3 meals a day is believed to have taken hold around the 19th century. Before this period, the prevailing custom was to eat twice a day, once shortly after sunrise, again later, the timing of the second meal varying sometimes at noon, other times in the afternoon depending on individual schedules and regional practices. This dietary pattern was intrinsically linked to the daily rhythms of life in a pre-industrial society. Without the benefit of electric lighting, people lived in close harmony with the natural cycle of day and night, rising with the sun to work and retiring at sunset. This naturally resulted in 2 primary meals, mirroring the rising and setting of the sun. It's said that ancient emperors typically ate 2 meals a day, one in the morning and one at midday. Does this mean that the imperial physicians of that time already understood the principles of health management? So why has the practice evolved into 3 meals a day? Current analyses point to 2 primary reasons. Firstly, the Industrial Revolution led to a significant increase in food production. Guria, staples like grains, vegetables, fruits, meat, eggs, and dairy products were scarce and difficult to obtain. With the development of industry, agriculture, animal husbandry, and aquaculture, these items became much more abundant. Secondly, under the influence of capitalism, food transformed into a commodity. Gradually, the concept of 3 meals a day emerged, with recommendations for everyone to consume 3 meals daily. This in turn facilitated greater food consumption, allowing capitalists to generate higher profits. In the past, grains were less refined than they are now, so consuming 3 meals daily. However, as the practice of eating 3 meals a day became commonplace, a problem arose. Consider this. If we eat breakfast at 7 a.m., we're then eating lunch soon after that meal is digested, followed by dinner shortly after lunch. Consequently, our digestive systems are working almost continuously for over 10 hours each day. Our appetite is intrinsically linked to our digestive system, and now the problem extends beyond just 3 main meals. The commercialization of food has led to a massive influx of snacks. But what purpose do these snacks serve? They're no longer about addressing hunger. Instead, they fill the gaps between meals, encouraging us to eat almost constantly. If you also add a late-night snack before bed, your digestive system could be working for over 20 hours straight. Consider this. You might only work 8 hours a day, but your stomach and intestines are toiling for over 20. Imagine how exhausting that is for them. Human organs are similar to components in a machine. For instance, the human heart is estimated to be over 3 billion times. Our digestive system likely has a similar operational limit. However, unlike machines, we can't simply replace worn-out parts. The failure of any vital organ is life-threatening. Therefore, it's reasonable to assume that if our digestive system is working for 10 or even upwards of 20 hours a day, its lifespan will be significantly reduced. Just as people can die from overexertion, so too can our organs. This doesn't necessarily mean immediate death, but rather a gradual decline in function or aging. It's common knowledge that older individuals often can't tolerate a wide variety of foods, especially rich or fatty ones. However, it's more accurate to say that it's not simply that older people can't eat these foods. Rather, the aging of their internal organs makes it difficult for them to do so. If an elderly person is healthy, they generally don't have dietary restrictions. Remember how reduced sleep isn't always directly correlated with age. The aging of the brain isn't either. The world's oldest woman was a French lady who, even at over 100 years old, still ate meat every day, indicating excellent gut health. However, many people today, perhaps starting in their 40s or 50s, can no longer digest certain rich or heavy foods. This is due to premature aging of the gut. Of course, another significant factor contributing to premature gut aging in people today is that internal organ aging is often imperceptible. With the gut, you are often unaware of its declining function until you suddenly find yourself unable to tolerate certain foods. Therefore, with every bite you take, consider the impact on your digestive health. Every time you swallow something, your digestive system has to process it, and ultimately it's you who bears the consequences. To prevent premature aging of our digestive system, one crucial factor is to reduce its workload. Because the digestive system is passive, it doesn't work unless you eat. Reducing food intake can decrease its working hours. From this perspective, the typical pattern of 3 meals a day from morning till night is quite unhealthy. It's important to note that reducing the burden on the digestive system and losing weight are two distinct concepts. Although the goals may seem similar, the focus is different. The focus of weight loss is reducing energy intake. So you can lose weight simply by avoiding high-calorie foods and even eating smaller meals more frequently. However, reducing the burden on internal organs is about their working time, which is the frequency of eating. Therefore, the duration of fasting ultimately determines the burden on internal organs. Providing them with sufficient daily rest can reduce wear and tear. So is it sufficient and reasonable for the intestines to have extended periods of daily rest? This has been a topic of ongoing research for many years, with numerous papers and related experiments. Gima, it was suggested that the digestive system might need 10 hours of rest daily. Others have proposed as much as 20 hours. It's now widely believed that a 16-hour rest period is quite suitable. While there may be some individual variations, 16 hours is considered a relatively average level. This means that the daily eating window is only 8 hours, with the remaining 16 hours being a fasting period. Why is 16 hours considered optimal? Because researchers have discovered that if the human body goes 16 hours without food, it automatically activates two functions. The first function is that when a person fasts for 10 hours, the liver's glycogen stores are depleted and then blood sugar and fat begin to be metabolized. Therefore, true weight loss begins after 10 hours of fasting. When fasting reaches 16 hours, another very important function in the human body is activated: autophagy. Autophagy means self-eating, and this is a function that has been gradually elucidated in recent years. Simply put, when the body is in a low-energy state, that is a state of hunger, the cell's autophagy function is activated. Once activated, the cell begins to break down some of its own useless and excess proteins, decomposing them into energy and nutrients, which are then absorbed to maintain its normal functioning. This is called autophagy, and it's a very sophisticated function. It doesn't randomly break down proteins in the body, rather it first breaks down those useless and harmful substances. Therefore, autophagy is actually an automatic renewal, repair, and regeneration mechanism of the human body. This amazing function was first discovered in 1963, but its principles were not well understood until later. The Japanese biologist Yasunori Ozumi was awarded the 2016 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for explaining the mechanisms and functions of autophagy. This autophagy function is inherent in cells. It exists not only in humans but in all animals. Unfortunately, in recent years, this function has been largely restricted in humans because, as mentioned earlier, this function is only activated in a state of hunger, and most of us now have no opportunity to enter a state of hunger. In fact, this autophagy function operates normally to some extent, but not on a large scale. To initiate it on a large scale, it is necessary to enter a state of hunger. Some people may ask, do people with high levels of exercise or heavy lundal also need to fast in this way? If you want to activate this function, it can only be done through fasting. There is no other way. If we can fast for more than 16 hours, this autophagy function will be activated and your body can maintain a constantly renewed state because old and worn-out components are consumed by it. And wild animals spend most of their time in a state of hunger. This function is constantly activated. From this perspective, this function is clearly designed for the wild environment. This is one reason why wild animals remain healthy until their death. For example, elephants remain very robust until they die because this renewal process is constantly occurring. We humans were originally capable of this as well, but due to the development of productivity and the abundance of food, this function has been completely sealed. The result is that the toxic and harmful substances in our bodies cannot be processed, and over time we become ill. Since each of us has a function in our bodies that maintains health, we should try to activate it. Therefore, long-term fasting is needed. So what is the frequency of fasting? The answer is that it needs to be activated every day. Once activated, it is turned off as soon as you eat. Another advantage of this 16-hour fasting method is that it doesn't restrict what you eat during the 8-hour eating window. In principle, you can eat anything and any amount. Or junk food is also acceptable. Junk food will not interrupt the activation of autophagy. It is a health maintenance method not primarily for weight loss, so the amount you eat doesn't matter. If you want to lose weight, you need to control calories. Its fundamental purpose is to reduce the burden on internal organs and activate autophagy through fasting as long as it is completed within 8 hours. To summarize, when you fast for 10 hours, your body starts to burn fat. When you fast for 16 hours, autophagy is activated, and your body begins to renew itself. The biggest advantage of this health maintenance method is that it doesn't cost a penny and even saves money. It's truly killing many birds with one stone. The key is that if you don't do this, it's not just a matter of not getting these benefits. Rather, reverse effects will occur such as weight gain and toxin accumulation, and ultimately, you will spend a lot of money on food, weight loss and medical treatment. Speaking of which, how can you achieve the ability to fast for 16 hours a day? It sounds difficult, but it's actually not that hard, because these 16 hours include sleep time. If you sleep for 8 hours a day, you actually only need 8 hours of conscious fasting time, which is 4 hours before sleep, plus 4 hours after waking up. If you must eat breakfast, the 4 hours after waking up can also be moved to the evening, which means not eating anything for 8 hours before sleep. For example, if you go to bed at 12 o'clock, then you can't eat anything from 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But before 4 o'clock, you can eat whatever you want, as long as you ensure 16 hours of no food intake. As long as you do these things, the 3 benefits mentioned above, weight loss, renewal, and saving money, will all be achieved. If you don't, you will face 3 consequences: obesity, aging, and spending money. So during these 16 hours of fasting, can you really not eat anything at all? Actually, that's not the case. You may experience some discomfort due to low blood sugar. What should you do then? There are actually ways to manage this. Some things won't interrupt the autophagy effect. Nuts and yogurt are okay to eat, but both should be without additives. What are additives? They are things that stimulate your appetite and make you want to keep eating. Moreover, if additives contain oils, salts, or sugars, these will interrupt the autophagy effect, and your fasting plan will be ruined. If you really can't hold on, eating these things can help you get through it. So besides helping us lose weight and maintain good health, this 16-hour fasting method also has some other effects to look forward to. The second is cancer prevention. The main cause of cancer is DNA errors. These errors are not a big problem in themselves. Our bodies have the ability to repair these errors, but a very important part of this so-called self-repairability is cellular autophagy. The reason why wild animals don't get cancer is because their autophagy function is always activated. So as long as there are some problematic proteins or problematic cells, they will be eliminated by autophagy. However, this function of ours is sealed by abundant food and our self-repair function is limited. Therefore, in order to prevent these problematic cells from eventually developing into cancer cells, we should actively activate this function. Here I need to emphasize that cancer cells also use the cellular autophagy function to constantly proliferate. Cancer cells also use autophagy to eat other cells. What if it's activated incorrectly? So once you have cancer, you can no longer use autophagy for repair. You need other specialized treatments. What we need to do is activate this autophagy function as early as possible When we are healthy, to prevent cancer cells from appearing, this is the key. The key problem is that our autophagy function is not activated and problematic cells remain gradually. There are more and more problematic cells, and cancer cells will appear inside. It's too late to activate it then. There is also another benefit to look forward to, which is relieving high blood pressure. High blood pressure is actually because the blood is particularly viscous. This viscosity is due to sugars and fats. Fasting starts to consume sugars and fats in the blood after 10 hours. So if you fast regularly, your blood will become smoother and your blood vessels won't harden or have blockages. But the prerequisite is that you first consume the sugar in your liver. Only after that is used up do you start consuming the sugar in your blood. Here's a sequence you can gain health by not eating for 16 hours. Are there any simpler and cheaper methods than this? I think there might be better methods, but there probably aren't any cheaper ones. Speaking of this, everyone might be eager to try it, but to be honest, for many people this can be quite painful at first. After a day of work, you want to eat and drink something good in the evening, so this method actually has many other variations if you can't fast for 16 hours, or your lifestyle determines that you can't do this. You can also try some other methods, such as fasting only 1 day a week, not eating anything for 24 hours on that day, and eating normally for the remaining 6 days. This is also an option. It's about activating autophagy once a week for a thorough cleaning. Here's also the 5-2 fasting method. Eat normally for 5 days and do 16-hour fasts for 2 days. If it's Saturday and Sunday, this doesn't affect work. Here is also a more extreme variation. Eating only 1 meal a day, if the meal is finished within 1 hour, it's equivalent to a 23-hour fast. This has a better effect, but is more painful. If you can't stick to it, it's meaningless. If you only eat 1 meal a day for a couple of days, you'll feel a sense of accomplishment when you see your weight decrease. In short, fasting is definitely beneficial for the body, but the mental toll varies from person to person. Don't push yourself too hard. Moderation is key. But if you are eating 1 meal a day, you must eat well. This 1 meal needs to provide enough calories. The human body has a basal calorie requirement that must be met, otherwise it will be difficult to maintain normal bodily functions and it becomes dangerous. Finally, I want to emphasize that although the 16-hour fasting method has many benefits, you need to pay attention to a few points first. Not everyone is suitable for this method. People who are already too thin, have anorexia, or have indigestion should not try it. Second, people with serious illnesses need to consume a lot of energy to fight the disease, so they should strictly follow their doctor's advice on eating. Then there are pregnant women. What pregnant women eat needs to be based on doctor's advice. Do not fast arbitrarily. The food pregnant women eat will seriously affect the fetus's IQ, so never fast lightly. Tao methods are constantly improving. In short, try light fasting first and see if you can stick to it. Maybe you can. One last point to emphasize is that although you are fasting for these 16 hours, you should still drink water. So everyone drink as much water as possible. Finally, I hope this has been helpful to everyone. And lastly, friends who like InfoCP Mirror, don't forget to follow me.